excited about having today. I wanted to have her on a long time ago, but I just never asked. But this is my cousin, everybody.
Yes. Hey, cousin.
So I'm excited to have her on. She is actually who inspired me to have a podcast. So she started her podcast, Slaying Self Doubt, way before I thought about even having Kingdom Hairstylist podcast. And early on in my stages of me getting started, I reached out to her to ask her for some help, and she gave me a lot of help and got me started. So that just says a lot about who she is. She's so giving, so just selfless, always wanting to help everybody. If you call her and you tell her that you got something and you need some help with it, she gonna help you figure it out. And that's just who
I
she
appreciate
always
that.
has been. Yes. So I don't want to tell them too much about you. I want you to introduce yourself.
Okay.
So I want you to just give everybody some background on who you are and what made you start the Slaying Self Doubt podcast.
Okay. So, hey, y'all. I am Coach Felicia. I am the CEO and founder of Slaying Self Doubt. Slaying Self Doubt is a movement to empower Black women to overcome their doubts, fears, and insecurities in order to walk into their God given purpose.
Yeah.
I also am the host of the Slaying Self Doubt podcast, where I share my self doubt journey. And I also who are entrepreneurs specifically, but they have also had a self doubt journey because everybody's story is different.
Oh yeah.
For me, slaying self doubt is personal because it has everything to do with me. So I always say when you see me showing up in place, any capacity, I am literally slaying my self doubt.
Yes.
This did not start with me. I did not want to do a podcast. I did not want to be an entrepreneur. I was just fine in my leadership position in healthcare. And the Lord saw fit for me to do something else. I always share the story that I distinctly remember before He even gave me the phrase slaying self doubt. I was having a conversation with my sister, and I was like, oh, I can never be an entrepreneur. It's too much work, too much responsibility. I'll just be a boss somewhere. Like, I can't be a regular employee, but I don't mind being a leader somewhere. I can't be an entrepreneur. And then the Lord said, oh, okay, I'm just I'm gonna go ahead and give you this. So He gave me the phrase slaying self-doubt, and it just started with me posting like inspirational Instagram posts. And then He was like, okay, I want you to do a podcast. And I was just like, about what and for who and who's going to listen and what are we going to talk about? But it really started. I actually recorded my first episode in July of 2018. I did
Wow.
not publish it until March of 2019. So that's a nice little gap because what's the name of this business? Slaying self-doubt. So I had lots of self-doubt around doing it. But here we are 4 years later, and I just continue to be obedient, continue to just people keep listening, so I keep talking. That's
Yeah.
basically what it boils down to.
Yes. I love that so much. So let me ask you this. So you said you created your first episode in July, you said, and didn't
Mhm.
publish it until when you say?
March of
March.
2019.
Wow.
Mhm.
So during that time, what was that like? Was it a lot of fear involved, or was it just like you just wanted to make sure you had it set up right? Like, what did that look like for you?
No, it was a lot of fear. Mainly because I didn't. So for me, I never even listened to a podcast.
Okay.
That's number one. Wasn't even like I knew what podcasts were, and it was like, oh,
Right.
this makes so much sense. I never even knew. I was like, is it like talk radio? Is that what that is? Like, I was so confused. So I had to learn what podcasting was to even begin with. But it in the beginning when I recorded the first episode, it wasn't even an intentional episode. I literally just
Mm.
went to my basement and was like, okay, you bought this microphone and you have the, like, you did the work of
Yeah.
researching the stuff, like just record. And I just talked. It
Yep.
probably was like an hour. There was no rhyme or reason to it. I told the most random story about a night at the classics. Like when I think back,
I gotta go listen now.
when I think back to that episode, I'd be like, girl, what was you talking about? Because that had nothing had anything to do with anything, but it really was beginning of my story. And so
Yeah.
when I recorded that episode, I was just like, okay. To
Yeah.
me, I was like, see, Lord, I recorded it. This don't make no sense. Why would you ask me to do anything else? Right. Like,
Right.
and I was thinking, sometimes we do this, like we do just enough, right? And we
Yep.
think the Lord gonna be like, oh, you don't have to do nothing else.
Yeah.
You did part of what I told you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it didn't really work out that way. And so I just continued to not do anything, even though
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was supposed to do it. And at the time I was leading a small group
Yeah.
actually called Slaying Self Doubt. And
Mm-hmm.
they kept asking about it because I had said it out loud, right? And so
Right.
people were like, when's the podcast coming? And I was like, child, I don't know, y'all. This is just it's too much.
Yeah.
So it was um 2018. I recorded the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
And that time I was very intentional about being like, okay, y'all. So I procrastinated, which I
Yeah.
knew that was my defense mechanism, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I talked about that. Then I recorded another episode in January.
Mm-hmm.
So I had three, right? And I did nothing. Still, we in January, and then finally, well, I don't even know. I don't know what prompted me in March, but I really do think it was like God was like, "It's go time," right? So it was enough things that was like, that pushing to like you need to just do this, and so
Yeah.
I was like, that even took me like a week
Yeah.
to actually uh start the process to even press publish. Like it was
Yeah.
like I bought the podcast, the hosting site, and then I kind of let it sit there for a minute. Then I did all the I was just doing a little bit at a time, and then finally, like literally the day I uploaded it to the site, I came downstairs. I told my husband, I was like, I did it. I up I uploaded my episode. So he was
Yeah.
like, so it's live, and I was like, no, it's just saved. I was like, it's just saved on the site. I haven't even made it live yet. And so I just scheduled it and I was just like, we're gonna see what's gonna happen. And here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yes. Okay. So that's really good for somebody that may be listening. It's like, just do it. Just start
Mm-hmm.
it. Like, I mean, the fact that she had enough courage to buy the mic. Okay. So that's the first step. Then she had enough courage to publish it later, even if it took her a little while, but she did it. So, I mean, a lot of times you will run into fears. That's what I've learned too. But it's like you got to push through, especially if God gave that to you. You got to be obedient. And
Oh
so,
yeah. Sure.
obedience is way better than sacrifice. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
so glad that you shared that with us because some people need to know that they like just feel like, oh, it's too late, or oh, I should have been did it. It's I mean you God always giving us different things to do, so it's really never too late. You can always go back to Him and say, God, I didn't do it, but I'm ready.
Right.
He'll tell you, he'll prompt you to do it again or give you something new to do. You never know, but I would say just go ahead and push through.
Yeah, I
So
would say that too, especially
yeah,
because I have learned over the years that
yeah,
um delayed obedience is
it
disobedience.
is.
So regardless of how you look at it, like
Mm-hmm.
even though I was kind of piecemealing myself, like
Yep.
I was still being disobedient by not doing it. And, I'm not saying that sometimes for me personally, I can only say for myself that sometimes even in that delayed disobedience, I was so frustrated with other things that was going on
Yeah.
had nothing to do with the podcast, right? But other
Mm-hmm.
things were happening that I was just like, oh, something has to change. And it was almost like, of course, now I can say, had I started it when he first gave it to me, I don't know whether or not the things that were happening, if it would not have been as stressful because I'm fighting this thing over here that's
Yeah.
really bothering me versus like I'm paying attention to all this other stuff. It don't have nothing to do with the thing. Actually, you're supposed to be doing this and focused on this thing over here, but all your attention is over in this thing that don't got nothing to do with you in the first place.
Yep.
But you're not doing your assignment. And so I think
Exactly.
once I just like leaned in and was just like, I'm just gonna do this, the ease and flow that happened after that with everything that God had for me after just like go ahead and just do the podcast. It was it's unmatched and I can't even
Yeah.
explain it. I can't
Yeah.
even explain it.
Just still mind blowing. I mean, God is just
Mm-hmm.
so unpredictable, and you just like, oh, that's why you wanted me to do that. Okay, I see. That's what's going to come from this. So that's why I always tell people just be obedient because you never know what the end is going to be, but God knows, and He's telling you to do
Facts.
things for a reason. It's always a
Yeah.
reason behind everything. So I don't know if you mind sharing a little bit about what it was like, even with you just leaving your job and quitting your job. Like, how did you hear God's voice? How did you know that that was what he was prompting you to do at the time?
So like you said, everything happens for a reason and you don't
Yeah.
really know. So if God gave me the phrase slaying self-doubt at the start of 2017,
Yeah.
at the start of 2018 is when I created my Instagram page
Mm-hmm.
and I post inspirational stuff. July, I told you I recorded an episode.
Yeah.
It didn't actually start, right? But in the middle of that January and that July, I was sitting at work and I literally heard God's voice say, "It's time to go." Okay.
Ooh.
That's right. Like I'm in my office and I was covering for somebody else. And so I'm like looking around like it ain't nobody in here but me and Mr. Johnson and he's asleep.
Right.
So I knew I knew I wasn't lunching, right? And so and
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, let me just I'm just, maybe I don't know, right? So I just kind of went on with the next day, and it was like this thing that was just kind of continuously gnawing at me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I ended up telling my husband, and he was like, "Well, God ain't tell me that." so I was, so I was just like, "Well, I mean, God don't talk to." He was telling me, so I think that what should happen is now. Here's where I messed up, right? Mind you, I told you I still haven't been obedient with this podcast.
Right.
But here I am. I've already thought about when I'm supposed to leave my job. So this is
Yep.
like February 2018. So I was like, all right, bet. I'm gonna leave in October so that way, October, November, December, I'm out here and I can be home with the kids for the holiday. And then
Mm-hmm.
in January, I will find another job. Again, now all God said was it's time for you to go. That was it.
That
I
was it.
added on the other stuff.
Yes. Yes. That's we do.
So I go through. We be like, this what he
Yep.
meant. Now let me first say, y'all, I never went back and prayed and say, God, what did you mean? I
Yeah.
was clear what he meant, but I
Yeah.
never asked for any direction. I just was like, oh, y'all, I'm out. Like you don't
Yeah.
have to. So I was so confident in that. Like I knew that was what I was supposed to do. I started telling people, like,
Mm,
y'all, the Lord told me it's time for me to go.
mm.
Not on boy, it was my husband. And my husband was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, we got mortgages, we got car notes. We got kids. Like, what are you? And I
Right.
was just like, I'm like, I don't know. So, in that process of me still being kind of like disobedient with the podcast, I'm also struggling with this because I know this is what God told me. So, remember being in a car and I just said, Lord, I mean, you wanted me to marry this man, right? So if
You
you
picked
wanted
them.
me to marry, you picked him, right? So if
Right.
you wanted me to marry this man, I was just like, I can't. I know what you told me, but I can't be in opposition with my husband. Like that's not gonna
Yeah.
work. And so I just said, in order for me to leave my job, you're gonna have to tell him, and it's
Mm,
gonna have to come from him. And
mm.
I was just like, okay, well, that's it. So I said it, I said the prayer, and I just went on about my business, like just every day. But in the back of my mind, I was also preparing for my departure because I believed that it was coming. And
Yeah.
it wasn't, I knew it wasn't coming in October of that
Yeah.
year, right? But I was just like, it's going to happen whenever it's going to happen. And so, then fast forward, I started doing the podcast, kept going, did all the things, and then I want to say maybe it might have been like the beginning of 2019. We had a conversation about it, and he was on board, right? Like, okay, I know this is what you want to do. I get it. Let's prepare. So it was more like he needed to prepare. So I was like, all right, cool. Now, still wasn't like a confirmation, right? He just was like,
Yeah.
I don't know when you're gonna be able to leave, but we can't leave until I feel comfortable. And I was just like, all right. So we did some things to make sure that we would be good whenever the time came, right? I launched the podcast in March. I started focusing on that. I am literally from March of 2019 until I want to say April, well, no, probably July of 2019. I'm literally narrating what God told me and me exiting. Like every episode is like this is what's going on. Throughout this time, all the people that were on my team and managing with me are getting let go. Now, I'm also
Wow.
upset because I was like, now hold up, sir. You told me
To
I was
leave.
supposed to go. How were they leaving before me?
Yep.
Right. So
Yep.
I had to be sure that I wasn't starting to get bitter and resentful with God because
Yeah.
I knew what he said to me, but I was still like, you got to get it. One of the things, because I had been in my job for so long, is that I needed them to be okay without me. That was a
Yep.
big thing for me.
Yep.
I just prepared them along the way. And then, let's see, it might have been May of 2019. My husband called me at work and he was like, what do we need to do to get you to come home sooner? And I was like,
Oh, okay, God. Okay,
I said, now
Lord.
what you say there now, boy? And so when he said, he was like, I know that, this is starting to really stress you out. And I know that we talked about you come on, what do we need to do? And so, we talked about it. And I was like, if I could leave by the end of our quarter, which was June 30th,
Yep.
I would be good. I did not want to go into another fiscal year with that organization.
Right.
I was just like, I'm like, let's go. And so he was like, okay. And then
Yep.
like I got off the phone and I just went to my car and cried because I was like,
Mm.
I knew that was an answered prayer. Like
It was
he
answer
didn't
prayer.
know I prayed that. He didn't know I prayed that. He didn't know that I told God that. Like he didn't know that. So if it even when we had talked about it, I really wasn't supposed to leave until 2020. Like
Right.
once we had planned it out, it was like, all right, he felt comfortable in 2020. The whole time, 2020 was a panorama.
Panorama.
Listen, so that just means that God got me out before
Before.
that whole everything shut down. So
Yep.
everything was in his timing.
Woo.
And so I'm always just like, I am grateful because I watched him work through that entire situation so that
Yep.
even when I left, by the time I left that job, I was overseeing 3 offices. I could walk away knowing I had done my job.
Yep.
Like I walked away, everybody was good, people was in the
Yep.
places they need to be. Like it was like this is a completion. I walked away from that place with integrity. I had finished
Yep.
that season of my life and I never looked back.
Yes, 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 yes. It was so inspiring because I'm your, we related, we cousins. So
Right.
it was so inspiring to see you do it. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
like I was walking with you with it, and it was almost like I was like so happy for you, but then I also was like, I hope she really do it. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I know how obedience the guy is. I know how hard it is when you hear him,
Yeah.
but you like, okay, God, I got all these bills. I got a husband. I got kids, just like you said. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what's on the other side of this? And it was like to see you have the courage to really do it. It was like it's like God set it up. Like it was really like a setup, and it was a
Yeah,
set.
for real.
And not only for you, but for the people that were around you. Because even like for me, I knew I had to start a podcast, but didn't know how to do it. So imagine if you never started yours, I would have never had nobody to call. So it's like you never know who your obedience is tied to. You know what I mean? Because you give people, your kids are even watching you. Even now, they see
Yeah.
you every day getting up, slaying yourself. That they see you walking in it. They probably didn't know what was going on either. They probably was like,
They had no
"Mommy just,
idea.
yeah, mommy just up and quit her job. What we gonna do? How we gonna eat?" But but you were able to be there for all the
Yeah.
events, school times, taking them to school, things that
Uh-huh.
you couldn't do beforehand. And it might have been one of your heart's desires. I'm not sure, but like when they were young, you probably like, I work too much. I wish I had a little break. And then you were able to get that break. Because I know as a
Yeah.
hairstylist, I felt like that. I used to work so much. I used to be like, I need a break. And it was like being a hairstylist, you can make your own schedule and everything,
Yeah.
but it's like, you still gotta work. So it's wonderful when somebody can be home with their kids. You know what I mean? So I really admired that. And I was so proud of you and happy. And just to see how successful that podcast you just posted the other day, you got 66,000.
66,000. Yep. Yeah. Listen, it every day it amazes me that I get to do this, right? Like it
Yes.
started off as something just like, oh, and I think it's because I minimized it, right? Like I
Yeah.
didn't know what it could be. But
Yeah.
even, when I listen back to them episodes, I'm like, bro, this is good, girl. You
Yeah.
good. Like
Yeah.
I
It's really
legit be
good.
like, oh, you are good at what you do, and
Yeah.
I'm honored that I get to do it, and also that the people that I'm able to connect with, and even just being in a space to be able to talk about stuff that we don't normally talk about, specifically as Black women, right? Like when
Right.
I started this, everybody was like, "Oh yeah, I got self-doubt." I was just like, yeah, the whole time I thought I was by myself. Like I thought
Yep.
I was the only person who struggled with it. But I think the issue is that we don't know how to put a name to it, right? We don't know what to call it, right? And I think
Hmm.
I'm so glad that we're in this era now where we can say, no, that's anxiety, that's, imposter syndrome, that's
Yeah.
fear, that's self-doubt. These are the things that are coming up for
Yeah.
actually trust it. Because once you do, like, then you realize, you know what? I mean, yeah, I have it, but okay.
Yeah. So
Like
that
she gotta come with me.
right. So that brings me to my next question because you said people were saying that I struggle with that too, right? So what is it that you hope that women get out of your podcast? Like when you post these episodes, what are you hoping that they get out of it? What are you hoping that they learn from the episodes?
I would say two things. So one is that I have learned that what slaying self doubt does is create safe and brave spaces for Black women to be able to show up authentically as themselves. Right.
Yeah.
I want people to, when they listen to those episodes, whether it's a solo episode or a guest episode, I want them to be able to connect with it for the primary reason that, like, we have a safe space, number one. And then number two, that like they're not by themselves, right? Like I just
Right.
said, like I thought I was the only one. And so now I have created, that's one of the reasons why I call it a movement, right? Like it's
Hmm.
not, this thing is going to, I know that this thing is bigger than me, right?
Yes.
And self-doubt doesn't happen at 35 years old, right? I can
Mm.
remember having self-doubt at 12 and at
Yeah.
16 and at 22 and in different areas of my life. You can have self-doubt in your finances, in your marriage, in your parenting, in your job, in your health, right?
Yeah.
There's so many different things that you can it can show up in. I really want people to know that they're not by themselves and
Yeah.
that they are able to um not necessarily overcome it, right? Because
Hmm.
I believe that self doubt shows up in different phases of your life and at different times. As you level up, that self doubt gonna grow and it's gonna go. But
Hmm.
slaying is a verb, right? So that means
Hmm.
we are it's an action. We are
Yes.
continuously chopping that thing down. So every
Yep.
time it comes up, every single time that you see it, every single time you feel it, everybody has a different way of how they handle it. And so listening to the podcast, you're going to listen, you're going to hear tips of how other women slay their self-doubt, how
Hmm.
they combat it when it shows up, because these women aren't saying like, oh no, I don't have any self-doubt in any
Right.
area, this, that, and the third. There are things, it may not be your thing, but
Yeah.
it may be something else. We have people who say that, maybe it's depending on what business they have, it could be in whether or not they go get clients. If it has something to do with a podcast, is anybody going to listen? And what do my voice sound like?
Hmm.
How do I show up in these spaces? I don't, some of it is not feeling worthy. All these different things, and then they say, well, these are the things that I do. I journal. I go to therapy. I meditate. I what journaling, writing. I was going to say they
Yeah.
pray, they do different, they exercise, they do different things.
Yeah.
And so my hope is that the audience is able to impart some of that and be like, let me see if this works for me
Yep.
and if this will help my self-doubt.
Yeah. That's good. I really like that. So that's also going to lead me into my next question. So you're a coach. So you offer coaching. And do you do like one-on-one? Is it a one-on-one setting or is it a group coaching? What is it that you offer as far as your coaching is concerned for somebody that may be
So
wanting some coaching on that?
yeah, so currently I do individual coaching,
Yeah.
and it's specifically around self doubt. And I had my husband actually asked, like, I just tell people you're a life coach, and I was just like, I mean, it's very vague, right? But I
Right.
was like, I specifically deal with self doubt, and I was like, because it attacks every area of your life. Like we have
Yeah.
to get to the root of the thing. That is what God has specifically designed for me to do. And
Yeah.
so instead of me trying to do all these different things, I ain't no marriage coach, I ain't no
Mm-mm.
health coach. Like I know what
Nope.
I'm not,
Yeah.
right? And so the self-doubt coaching, it has different ranges. So some people just may need something because they have something really big that they have to
Yeah.
do like at the end of the month, and you need some, like, how do
Push.
I
Yeah.
push right then and there. And then some people
Yep.
have some things where they're like, okay, I really need to go through this process. And so there's like 8 weeks of us like really digging into that thing. And so I always say that my tagline is that I'm committed to helping Black women find their fears and slay them. And
Yeah.
so that's really you saying, what is the thing that I'm afraid of? And then I'm be like, all right, so what we gonna do? Right?
Yep.
Like I'm like your personal hype man. Like,
Yeah.
let's go. And then you're able to take those tools and use it no matter every single time self-doubt show up, you be
Yep.
like, oh, I got you. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm. And she telling y'all the truth, because if you tell her you're going to do something, she going to text you. Be like, well, did you do this? Did you do that yet? She
Listen,
holds you
when
accountable.
is it coming? Right. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Because you have to. And then
That's
you spoke
good.
earlier about the podcast. So I
Yeah.
just actually launched my an e-guide for those because you, along with other women that I have actually reached out, we said in the beginning, like, oh,
Yes.
you can call her and ask her. And
Yes.
I literally like I probably had, I don't know, maybe like 10 to 15 people
Oh,
who
good.
did over the time who have asked, and all of those women have gone on to start podcasts. But
Good.
for me, my self-doubt was I don't know enough. I don't have enough downloads. I don't have enough this to actually teach people how to do it. And
Yeah.
God had to remind me that no, yes, you do. You had
Yeah.
the proof is in the pudding. This is your track record. And
Yep.
so I've created an e-guide where you can
Good.
absolutely start record and start and launch a podcast in 30 days. It does not take
Good.
a long time. And so you can go to my website and you can get that.
What's
And
the
coming
website?
very it is slangselfdoubt.com.
Okay, so slayingselfdoubt.com.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm slaying self doubt everywhere.
I know that's right. And you also have merch because you got on the shirt. So
Yes, yes.
you
We
got
do
merch.
have merch. It says we just out here trusting God. You can get that
Yeah.
from the website as well. Hoodies and t-shirts. Because that's what this whole process, this whole thing is. Like this journey is just literally trusting God every step of the way. As we are walking our self-doubt journey out, we have to trust him each and every step of the way. So you can get that from the website. You can find the podcast on the website. I'm also wherever podcasts are heard.
Exactly.
Okay.
She everywhere. She everywhere. Okay, so my next question is, how important is it? Well, you already shared some of this, but how important is it for a person that is trying to slay their self-doubt? How important is it for them to have a relationship with God? How do you feel? How important do you feel it is?
Oh, it's necessary. It's essential, right? Because one of the things that I combat my self doubt with is what God says about me, right? If
Mm-hmm.
I believe that I'm perfectly and wonderfully made, then I can't be doubting myself, right? If I
Exactly.
believe that God knows the and it's for a hope and a future and it's not to destroy me, then I can't believe that he's trying to set me up, which is what we do, right? We be like, we think God is setting us up, right?
Yeah.
But you have to have your own personal relationship with him. I'm very clear that pray for you, although you can have people pray with you, your
Mm-hmm.
direct connection to him is what's going to get you through. Because in those
Right.
moments where things don't look like it's when spirituality and reality hit, and like we said earlier, when you like, I know this is what God told me to do, but these bills is due.
Yeah.
You are in a space where you have to sometimes you have to make a choice. And I think for me, what I've gotten to a place is like I have to lean on what God has said about me in order to continue to move forward because I know this is his work and this is
Yeah.
bigger than me.
Yeah.
So if I the moment I make it about me, then child,
Yeah.
everything is out the window for real.
Yeah. That's true. Okay, so you know how like everybody has a different way that they build their relationship with God. Like for me, like my routine in the morning is when I get up, the first thing I do is thank God for allowing me to see another day before my feet even hit the floor. That's what I do. Then also, I may get up, run around, maybe fix some coffee or something like that. Then I come back and I pray. And then I read the word of God. I do that every single morning. What does your routine look like? And this is just I couldn't talk. This is just to help somebody because everybody's routine looks different. And I don't want people to
Yeah.
feel got to do it the way that I do it. You may do yours in the evening. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what does your routine look like? This just may be to help somebody that may, just be struggling with like, well, when do I spend time with him? How do I build a
Right.
relationship with him?
Um, so I don't have no routine.
Okay.
I'll just be honest. I don't have a
Yeah.
routine.
And that's
And
good. That's good.
yeah, I think the reason why is because I tried and I felt like I was being fluke,
Okay.
right? I felt like I was forcing it.
Yeah.
And I had to do it because that's what people said, start the day, da da da. I
Mm-hmm.
talk to God whenever. I
Yep.
don't, there's no designated time that I am like, oh, I need to spend this time with. I talk to him all day, in every moment. What I am intentional about, I think, is um what I'm allowing I do set aside a day. So like Monday, it will be it's like I consider it, I just started this, y'all. So, just learned them like 3 weeks in. Okay. But it's like my, I guess what I would call like my non-secular day. Right.
Okay.
So I do a social media fast and all
Okay.
day I just listen to either sermons or worship music.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, or podcasts that are, scripture, Christian based.
Christian based. Yep.
um but I usually do that for me. It's like it's the start of the week, right?
Yeah.
And it just kind of gets me going. But also it's intentional about like stopping, right? So if I
Yep.
take that whole day, then I'm able to kind of like focus. And so I feel like even though I don't have necessarily a routine to do it, I know I need it more than just Sunday, right?
Okay.
And so, but on a regular day-to-day basis, I make sure I read my devotionals. I make sure
Yep.
that I read the Bible.
Yep.
I make sure that I journal. I make sure that
Yeah.
I pray. It's just random, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just
So it's no set
whenever it is.
routine. It's
There's
just you
no
go with
set
the flow.
routine. But I will tell you, if I feel the Holy Spirit be like, you need to go to your closet, I could be in the middle of
Ching.
cooking dinner and I'd be like, can somebody finish this? I'm about to head on up the steps.
That's
And
right.
sometimes it's just like he needs me to be still, right?
Yeah.
And so we are in tune enough that I will move when he says move, but then
Yep.
also the relationship that I have with him, I talk to him like I talk to everybody else. So
Yeah.
like I always say to people, like sometimes he be a bama for how he be moving, but it's okay because we know he all knowing. So I'll be like, so you knew that this was gonna happen, you will accept. Oh, I got you. Okay then,
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's my relationship with him.
Yeah. And it works. It works for you. I mean, so that's why I wanted you to share that because it's like sometimes
Hmm.
we get caught up in this box. And mine's I have to have a routine because that's just how I can leave out the door. I gotta go deal with these people. I got to
Yeah.
so it's just different. And sometimes I like you said, sometimes I am random. Some days I'll do a little bit and then do more in
Hmm.
the evening. You know what I mean? Or sometimes it's just all morning if I'm off that day or all day, like you said, listening to worship music and just trying to find a balance because I never want God to feel like he just last place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
good. And I think the fact that you mentioned that you talk to him all day is so important because that's how you put him first. That's how you do the Matthew
Hmm.
6:33 where you seek him above all else.
Yep.
Because that's how you're constantly able to hear from him. When you speak to him, he gonna speak back.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
And I
think
will also share that
mhm.
there are different seasons
Yeah,
in how you are with, because when that's the season I was in when I knew that God told me to leave until I left,
yeah.
baby, I was in that closet every morning at 5:30.
Mm-hmm.
Every single morning. Every morning I was in there because there was like this. I can't explain it. Every time I talk about it, I get goosebumps.
Get
So
goosebumps.
it was just this thing that was in me was like, I had to be at his feet. I had to be there because everything that I was going to come up against could have, I could have just said, you know what, never mind. I'm going to just stay here.
Yeah, you
When
sure
even
could.
when everything when my husband was like, "Nah, we're not doing that," I could have been like, "Well, all right, Lord, I tried,
Right.
right?" But I kept pushing it because I knew that that was what the next thing. I kept saying, "I do not know what's next, but whatever it is, I cannot do it here." That
Yeah.
that was all I kept saying. And so in that season, oh no, I had to be at his feet every day, every morning, like you said, before I walked in
Yeah.
that place, because I needed no distractions. I needed to be clear on the go. And so it could be because I'm at home all day now that I just be like, child, anytime is my worship time.
Right.
You know what I'm
Because you got the time.
saying? Right. So
Yeah.
sometimes your seasons may look different. You may need to be doing things differently, and that's okay. Like,
Hmm.
I just say to just keep a direct line. Like, you just need
Yeah.
to. I always say, like, you need to talk to God enough that you know His voice in the middle of a crowd, right?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
you need to know when some don't feel right. Okay, that's the
Yeah.
Holy Spirit saying we out of here. We
Yeah.
gotta go.
Yeah, yeah. So that's really, really good. I really appreciate you sharing that because that's going to help somebody. The next question that I have for you is, all right, so you help mainly black women or only black women. What made you just pick black women? Like, what was it? Was it something that you felt like black women just need, or you just was God told you to help black
And
women?
God told me. I told
Okay.
you I didn't even want to do this, but no,
Okay.
it really was God did tell me. But I think over time, I realized we are the ones who needed it, right? So even during the panorama, I've probably read like 5 books
Mm,
from different black women who talked
mm,
about fear and
yeah.
imposter syndrome and
Yeah.
self-doubt. Like, so I was like, this is not, I'm not lunching, right?
Yeah.
Like, these are women who are well known, who are
Yeah.
already made it, who are telling you, I was struggling, I am struggling, and I will continue to struggle with this, right? And so I knew that these are my people, and I was very clear that, like, God was telling me, I need you to help the women who look like you.
Yeah.
Period. Now,
Yeah.
that does not mean anybody who doesn't look like me cannot receive something, because everybody get,
Everybody.
child. The number of times that I get, well, what about the men? And I be like, they not my assignment.
Exactly.
but that don't mean you can't listen. That don't mean that
Yeah.
you can't. I'm not saying that you don't have self doubt, but that you're not my assignment. Like, that's
Exactly.
not. I can't. Like, I'm not about to be. You can do anything, but
Yeah.
you ain't supposed to do everything,
No,
right?
you're not.
So I'm very clear about who I'm saying I'm here to serve, and so that's what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah,
So,
that's good. I just asked, just to make sure that we just clear, because
oh
I
yeah,
know
yeah, yeah.
and I know that you're right when you say that because I was listening to a sermon the other day. It was by Kenneth Hagin. It's an
Mm,
older Caucasian gentleman that I listen to sometimes, but he always got really good teachers. And he was talking about how there's still a slavery mentality, like on a lot of us, a lot of the black race, and we struggle with poverty and just all this stuff. And it was just like, it's a spirit. So it's
mm-hmm,
like, it's
mm-hmm.
really needed. That's why I believe God had you set this up because it's really needed. A lot of us don't feel like we can do certain things because of our skin color. We
Yeah,
feel like, we don't have the money because somebody else, Julie, might have been born into that kind of money. And
right,
we don't
right.
really see a lot of it, um, in our bloodlines or in our families. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I really believe that is why God probably had you. I don't know, but I'm just kind of assuming that we needed it. We did. We
Yeah,
definitely
I know. I
needed it.
definitely, I definitely see that now. Like I said,
Yeah.
4 years later, the number of women that I have talked to, the number of
Hmm.
interviews that I've did, even when there's people who've reached out to me that I would be like, "What? Like, you want to
Yeah.
talk to me?" But
Right.
they're always just like, when I saw what this was about, like, I
Yeah.
had to say something. And I think
Hmm.
it's this that whole that, like, each one teach one thing, and
Yeah.
even what you were saying earlier, that, like, everything that we do is connected to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And so, hey, if I had not started this,
Hmm.
there's probably conversations happening about self
Yeah.
doubt, but I know for a fact, like, this is my market, right? Like,
Yeah.
I know I got this on lock. So when people see slaying self doubt, I've had people be like, are you somewhere else, right? So,
Mhm.
this is just a tidbit for anybody who is working in something. God is doing something for you. You're supposed to be doing something. Please make sure you have all your ducks in a row. So I
Yeah.
had somebody reach out to me one day and was like, "Are you at a conference?" And I was just like, "No." And so she was like, "Somebody just said something about, somebody's going to be speaking on slaying self doubt." And I said, "Now wait a minute."
Wait
Like,
a minute.
I don't know, it might have been the title of their thing, but
Yeah.
baby, I was like, let me go get this thing trademarked, okay?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
what I'm not about to do is I'm not about to
Mm-mm.
play with this thing that I know
Yeah.
God gave me, and then be
Yeah.
having to be in these streets fighting with
Fight
people
people.
because you try to use my name, right? Like, and so I was like, you can call your thing whatever you want to call it. But this right here, when you anybody who sees slaying self doubt, you know that's me. Okay, you know
Exactly.
it's me.
Exactly. Yeah, that's really good right there. Getting the trademark was really good because I've seen people's stuff get stolen. Literally.
Every single. My son just asked me the other day. He was like, "Taco Tuesday is trademarked," and I was like, "Apparently." I was like, "But you know how many people use that? You can't
Yeah.
trademark something that's used." But I was like, "But people want money. People want to be able
Hmm.
to capitalize off of stuff." And I was like, "It's only because LeBron James was saying it."
Right.
Like that's really the only reason why. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah. So no, I'd say take it seriously. If God has you doing something, do the necessary thing to make sure that your foundation is solid. Because once you get your foot planted and you start doing the thing that God is calling you to do, listen, you don't know how God is a suddenly God.
Yeah,
And if
he
your
is.
stuff ain't right and suddenly you blow up and then you like, dang, what I'm supposed
Yeah.
to do? I don't have all my ducks in a row.
Yep.
You don't
Yep.
want that. So make sure you have your foundation set.
Yep. Now I know we just flowing because I didn't give you these questions. I wanted it
I
to
know
just
it's all right.
flow,
It's all
right?
right.
So my next question, because I just been asking Holy Spirit, what's next? The next thing I wanted you to talk about is out of all the hundreds of thousands of interviews, because you do a lot of interviews,
Girl,
out of all the interviews you've done, can you tell me like what you don't have to say the person's name, or you make it say it so we can go find that episode? But what do you feel like was your most memorable episode of an interview? Because I know you got so many, so I'm gonna give you a little second to think
I
about it because I
do.
didn't
I
ask you.
do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well,
Take.
no, it's okay. I mean, I think
Okay.
I have an answer. I
Yeah.
am going to say it's probably going to feel very generic. I'm going to say all of them, and I'm gonna tell you why all of them.
Okay.
Every single one of them, because the episodes are not live, right? So it's not
Right.
like us recording right here. So you
Yeah.
all do not hear it when I record it.
Right.
Some of these are recorded months, maybe even a year in advance before they actually are published.
Yeah.
And every single interview I do has to be in alignment with who God wants me to talk to. I do not talk to everybody. There have been a lot of
Me.
people who have pitched to be on the show, and I'll be
Yep.
like, thanks for coming out. God bless and good night. Right. It is nothing personal, but it's
Yeah.
not, I will pray about it. And if God say no, sometimes I sit on requests for weeks until
Yeah.
I get an answer because
Mm.
I'm not about, like, you're going to be attached to me, which is
Yeah.
attached to him. I'm
Yep.
not doing that. And I'm not
Yep.
playing around with those type of things. So with that being said, every conversation I've had, every interview that I have done, I always say the same. If you listen to the interviews, I say people gonna get tired of me saying this, but I say the same thing. God knew I needed to talk to you today because whoever I interview on that day, at that moment, I am literally going through exactly what they are talking about. And
Wow.
like I said, these are months before y'all actually hear it, right? So
Whew.
there's episodes that I've done that I've been like, I needed this today. Like I needed your encouragement today. I needed your wisdom and the things that you are imparting on this audience and the people, the thousands of people that are going to listen to it. But Philicia needed it today.
Mm-hmm.
So I think all of them, all like they all have helped me to continue to keep going, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think that I want to say the ones that are the most memorable ones would be the ones that for me, I feel like the people are um and this is my self-doubt probably
Yeah.
talking. I know it is, right? But the people who I feel like, bro, how did you find me? Right? Like
Exactly.
how did like seriously, like it took
Yeah.
me this a couple of different episodes, but it took me a minute to realize I interviewed Dr. Cindy Trim.
Oh, you did?
Now, right, okay. So
Wow.
I seen the thing come through. I got the request. I did my normal thing, schedule, blah blah blah. We went through this, and I kept saying this name is so familiar to me. Like
Mm.
I don't know why I know her name, and
Mm.
so I was just like, I mean, I don't know. You know, when you're on social media, you think you know everybody, right? So I'm just like,
Exactly.
I probably did. So
Yeah.
I'm sitting in my bed, and I go to reach to get my journal, and I have a book that's called The 40 Day Soul Fast. It's by Dr. Cindy Trim. And I
Wow.
was like, what the crap? So then I had to go like, hold on. I had to go back to my email. Like, is this the
Is
same lady?
this the real Cindy Trim? Is this her?
Hold on. Is this a fake person? And so I'm sitting there like, yo, you gotta be kidding me. Like, how did
Right.
you pitched me?
Yep.
Right? Like there are people that I feel like they are like elite in their leagues, right? They
Yeah.
are experts in their fields. They are celebrities. They are like, I'm out here like it's a you are above me, okay? Right?
Yeah.
I'm at the Best Western, right? I'm over here.
No, not the
I'm
best
over
Western.
here like, how did
No.
you find me, right? And
Right.
so those be the ones that I be like, every time I be like, thank you, God.
Yeah.
Because me continuously to show up, continuously having this space, continuously doing what it is that I do, these women are finding me. Now, at the end of the day, there's some people that I'm pitching, but I'm like, these are people that you like, no, I need you, I need them on here. I need them on
Mhm.
your show. And so those are the moments where I'm like, dog, like I am for real. Like, what the crap is happening? Like, it just it blows my mind. So
Girl,
yeah, those
that's amazing.
moments really be having me like, I don't think I've ever fangirled over.
Yeah.
I think I halfway fangirled over somebody that's it's an upcoming episode.
Okay.
But I had to tell her
Okay.
I'm about to fangirl real quick.
But that's
um,
amazing.
but yeah, those I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to do that. And again, that was a God thing. I did not
Yeah.
want to interview. Like
Yeah.
that was something God said interview, and I said, "Now who's
Yeah.
gonna be out here telling me their business,
I mean,
right?" Like,
you get them, and they actually you have a lot of interviews. Like I couldn't even at one point I couldn't keep up with your show. It was just so many. I was just like, okay, I gotta make time to listen to the show because it's just so many. But it's a beautiful thing to see that it's that many women out here slaying their self doubt. So
yeah, yeah.
if y'all haven't had a chance to write it down, I put it in the notes. But make sure y'all go to either the website or her Instagram page and listen because it's going to bless your life. The ones that I have listened to were really, really great. So I know all of them are. So y'all
Yeah,
make
yeah.
sure y'all listen. So yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing how God transitioned you from where you were and you didn't want to
Hmm.
do it to where you are now. Just looking back over it, it's just amazing, man. It's
Yeah,
so so good.
I am grateful. That's the reason why I say that, I had somebody tell me, slaying self-doubt is an affirmation. And I was just
No,
like,
it
you know what,
is.
you're right. I am
Mhm.
slaying self-doubt. That's what I say.
Yeah,
Every time you see me, every time I show up, know that I am actively telling my fear,
yeah,
let's be afraid later. Like,
yeah.
but right now we gotta go.
Exactly. So y'all keep up with her because she has events sometimes. I know you had one. Was it last year or this year? The event.
It might have been 2 years ago. Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah, it
know. I
might have been.
listen. See, you're digging into self doubt again about other. There's other thing like that's the thing. Like when God is telling you to do stuff, there are some scary things that He is
Yeah,
asking you to move on. That I am still just kind of like, huh, me? You sure you want
I
me
know
to
what
do
you
this? But I have some things. I have some things coming. So you
Yeah.
guys just
If y'all just
stay
stay
tuned.
posted, that's what I'm about to say. Just
Yes,
stay posted.
yes.
It might pop out. It may not be this year. It might be this year. We don't know. Just stay
You
tuned
you,
because
you
you just
know you know.
know. So I was going. That's what I was going to ask you next. The next question is: so where are you right now? Like, what is God dealing with you on right now? Like, I know you always slaying your self doubt, but is there something else that He is just dealing with you right now about that He wants you to do?
Um, yeah, so right now I'm in this waiting season,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Because like I said, when spirituality and reality
Mm-hmm.
mash up,
Yeah.
you hear people oftentimes talk about the joys of
Yeah.
entrepreneurship. But then also entrepreneurship be like,
Yeah.
who gonna pay my bills? Okay,
It
we be
take
out here.
discipline.
It,
Yes.
it is discipline, it is work, it is
Yes.
and it's also different for me. I always say like when you have a service-based business
Yeah.
versus a product-based business.
Yeah.
And because people have to want to use you, people have to
Yeah.
want to need you. And for what I do, I have to wait for you to decide that you're ready to do the work. I have to wait
Mhm.
for you to say, you know what, I want to really dig into what's the thing that's holding me back. So let me go find somebody. And, therapy is still very taboo in our community. And a lot of people don't even know what coaching is, right? And
Yeah.
so I always explain it this way. Like therapy is to go back and say, how did you get here? Right?
Yeah.
Let's go backwards and back into your life, into your childhood. Let's figure out how you got here. And
Yeah.
coaching is how do we get you there from where you are
Mm,
right now? How do we move you forward? Right.
that's
And so
good.
those are two different things. But with that being said, life is still lifing and things are
Yeah.
still happening and bills still
Hmm.
need to be paid, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm in kind of this waiting season of what's next, right? Like
Yeah.
what I should do with the business, real life. I'm, prayed for a position, a working position, and so I'm waiting for the completion of that. He
Yes.
partially answered that prayer, and so
Yep.
I'm waiting on the completion of that. But it's what do you do while you're waiting, right?
Hmm.
That is where I am right now. And some days I get it right. Some
Yeah.
days the right answer is to keep doing, keep
Yeah.
showing up, keep doing the work, keep, coming to interviews, even when you don't feel
Hmm.
like God is right there with you. Like he ain't answering me fast enough. Like what are we
Right.
doing? Right. This is where
Yeah.
I'd be like, he be in Alabama, right? But but I'm like, that's selfish of me because if I run God's track record,
Mm.
every single thing I prayed about, my answers were met. It
Okay.
didn't happen when I wanted it to happen, but it happened when I needed it to happen,
Mm.
right? And so
That's
I have
good.
to continue to remind myself that every single one of God's promises is yes and amen. So even
Yes.
in my waiting season, continue to do the work that He's called me to do right now. Continue to show up in the way I'm supposed to show up. And it'll happen when it's supposed to. And when it's supposed to happen, it will be right on time. Because God's time is not our time. And
Yep.
so we think we need something right now when really you have everything you need at this very moment. I don't honestly, I don't really need what I mean. No, Lord, I'm not saying I don't need it. I do need what I'm praying for, right? But at this very moment, on this day, June 13th at 12:57 p.m., I don't have to have it at this time. I
Yeah.
want it so bad because I'm thinking about the future. I'm thinking about I'm gonna need it for here, right? But at this very moment, I'm content with everything that I have. So why not just rest in that? So on days like today, where I'm just like, Lord, I'm grateful that you gave me an opportunity to share my story and be able
Hmm.
to show up in the way that you have designed me to show up. And
Yeah.
even though I'm still waiting on an answer, I know my prayer will be answered
Oh yeah.
because I'm literally living in an answered prayer.
Yes. Yes.
So if
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
living in a prayer that I had 5 years ago,
Mm, 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 mm.
child,
Exactly.
so on these days, I'm
Woo.
okay. On other
Yeah.
days, I'll be like, now where are you, Lord?
That is so funny because
Oh
that's
my
so
God.
real. It's so real. Like, I mean, I feel like we all go through that where we're like, okay, God, all right, you told me to do this, you told me to do that. I did all those things, and I'm grateful. But
Mm-hmm.
what is next? Like, what is the next thing for me? What's going to take me to the millionaires status?
Yeah.
Or
Well,
even,
so I have a question for that. The
yeah,
question I always ask myself is, what's the last thing God told you to do?
exactly.
And did you do it?
Yep,
If you didn't do it, then you're not going forward if you
yep,
still ain't done the last thing. Like I
yeah,
always say that he can't trust you with more if you
yeah,
haven't handled what you have. To like we so quick to be like, oh, I did it. Let me move on to the next thing.
yeah,
Have you done that thing to completion? That
right,
like whenever my husband and I have a conversation about slaying self doubt and what we're doing in this business, he always asks,
yeah.
"Have you tried every single thing that you can?"
Mm-hmm.
If my answer is no, then I still have more work to do,
Still got more
right?
work to
And
do.
so you have to ask yourself that: Have I done everything that I can? And in entrepreneurship, sometimes everything that you can is have you marketed enough? Do you
Right.
network, right? Do people
Yep.
know? Or did you, I'm just going to go ahead and put myself out there. Did you make one post and pin it and pin it to the top of your Instagram page and assume that every person that goes onto your page is going to
It's
read
going to
that
go
one
to
post
that.
and that is your advertisement, okay? I'm just telling y'all what I'm actually doing because there's still some deep-seated fear in like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't want to overwhelm people with the
Yeah.
same thing. I don't want. Do you know how many times you be watching TV and you see the same commercial?
Not only that, but what about Fashion Nova? I bought something from them one time and they send me messages every day like I like them or something. I'm like, I didn't
Every
know y'all. Like I got one thing.
Listen, they
No.
do not. When you really think about it, the people who are consistent. It's not
Yes.
that they not worried about whether or not you're gonna buy from them every single
No,
day, because that's not gonna happen. But what they are gonna do is say, guess what? You ain't gonna forget me though.
you ain't gonna forgive me. When you think about some clothes, I'm gonna be the first person on your mind.
Right, you're gonna be like, oh, I just got this email. Let me see if
Yeah.
this coupon still work, right?
Yeah.
And then you go look at it. So I always have to remind myself, like, people are out here doing what they have to do every single day.
Yeah.
Don't this is your job. This is your
Exactly.
mission. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And so
Yeah.
don't feel overwhelmed, or don't feel like you are bombarding people and
Yeah.
burdening people with the information. No, people need to hear it. Like,
Yeah.
they're and the people who are supposed to,
Yeah.
they will catch it when they're supposed to, because you are whoever's assigned to you may not see that one post you made at the beginning of the year, because ain't
No,
nobody going back that far.
no, they're not. They're not even gonna go back that
You
far.
get like 3 scrolls out of me, and then I'll be like, oh, going to the next
Yeah.
one.
On to the next one. Exactly. Well, thank you for being on this show. I really thought it was important for you to be on here for the hairstylists that are out here struggling with self-doubt. Now y'all have a coach y'all can reach out to,
Yeah.
especially the new hairstylists, the ones that are out here really just trying to find their way, and they're struggling with some self-doubt, some fears, not feeling like they're good enough. They haven't even started promoting or marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the best time to get a coach would be now, especially when
Yeah.
you're in the early stages of it, because a lot of times you go on and on and on and you just be all over the place. And so you need somebody that can help you be accountable, help you organize your thoughts, help you organize, different things that you're struggling with.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. This was really good. It was really
You're
informative.
welcome.
I'm
I'm
just so
super proud of you. I want to tell
oh,
you that, because
thank
just like
you.
you said at the beginning, you started with the podcast. And I always tell people, well, I'm not gonna say always, but I learned that most podcasts don't make it past 35 episodes, because it's a commitment, baby.
Mm-hmm.
It is a
It's
commitment
a
to doing
commitment.
this, right? And so, even today before we got on, I was like, oh, okay, girl, I see we streaming live, and like,
Yep.
you are continuing to level up. You not like just like, oh, okay, I'm just keep it right here and I do,
Yeah.
like, the fact that you keep pushing, can keep
Yeah.
going forward. Hey, listen, it's a motivation to me, right? Like,
Oh,
and I
thank
think that sometimes we don't. I'm learning. You give the people their flowers now,
you.
right? Like, don't
Exactly.
wait to be like, oh, they was doing so well. No, you are doing amazing right
Thank
now, and
you.
the space that you have to be able to influence other hairstylists who went through your journey
Yes.
is commendable, and it is necessary. Now, I want to make sure that, I haven't had to go to a hairstylist for a while. I hope that you talk about time in the shop.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna say.
I talk about that.
Oh, okay,
I
okay,
talk
okay.
about that
Just,
all
just,
the
just
time.
want to let y'all know. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I've been natural for a very, very long time,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna tell you, it was the salon that I was like, I do not want to spend all day in here.
I don't
Okay,
want to
like,
be
I
here
got
all
stuff to
day.
do. I don't
Right.
want to, and I can tell y'all, if you ain't been to Billy, if whatever time Billy says she's gonna get you out of there, she don't be playing. Okay, I'll be like, dang, I ain't been here 30 minutes.
Right. I
She
try
get it.
my best.
But
I
you
try
are,
my
as
best.
long, even when I had locks, you
Yep.
made sure I knew. I was like, I'm gonna be in there for an hour and a half. That is
Yep.
it. I can plan the rest of my day. Like,
Exactly.
that is a blessing.
That's a
So
blessing.
I'm proud of you.
Yes, but thank you. I'm proud of you too. And we're gonna keep slaying these self doubts together.
Yeah.
And yes, y'all be sure to reach out. So thank y'all so much for watching. I put all her information in the comments, but I'll also make sure that I post it in the caption when I post this video. So thank y'all so much, and y'all take care.
Bye, guys.